Pause for a moment on any street in modern London, and you'll hear a rapid-fire mix of languages from every corner of the globe. In the space of a few minutes, accents and voices shift constantly. Almost 4 out of every 10 people living here were born outside the United Kingdom, placing London among the most culturally diverse cities on the planet. Yet if you could strip the city back 2 millennia, you would not find skyscrapers or crowds, but marshy ground beside a tidal river, sparsely populated and largely insignificant. Apart from one power with an eye for strategy, it held little value. That power was Rome. Between then and now, London has been shaped by invasion and collapse, disease and fire, ambition and reinvention. It began as a modest trading point and evolved into the nerve center of a global empire. It has been reduced to ashes and rebuilt in stone. Through every catastrophe, it continued to expand, to adapt, and to attract people from far beyond its shores. For centuries, our understanding of London's earlier incarnations relied on artist impressions, aging engravings, and scattered written accounts. Today, artificial intelligence trained on historical imagery allows us to reinterpret those original sources and visualize the city as it may have appeared in real life. Stone streets underfoot, dense crowds, smoke drifting upward from medieval rooftops. What follows is nearly 2,000 years of transformation, condensed into a single journey through time. Settle in as we trace the extraordinary story of London, from its origins to the global city it has become. It starts with the Romans. In the year 43 AD, 4 Roman legions land on the coast of Kent and begin pushing inland. Their immediate challenge is logistical. They need a reliable crossing over the River Thames, a place suitable for a bridge and for maintaining supply routes back to continental Europe. They find the ideal location at the river's narrowest crossing before it opens into a broad estuary. This choice is decisive. Within 10 years, a settlement called Londinium is thriving. Merchants arrive from Gaul, soldiers from Syria, traders from North Africa. The Romans construct a bridge precisely where London Bridge still stands today, and around it a port town rapidly takes shape. But stability does not last long. Just 17 years after its founding, rebellion erupts. Boudica, queen of the Iceni tribe, leads an uprising against Roman rule. Her forces descend on Londinium and raze it completely. Archaeologists have uncovered a distinct layer of scorched red ash beneath modern London, physical proof of this destruction. Rome responds decisively. The city is rebuilt on a larger scale, fortified with an immense defensive wall, fragments of which remain visible almost 2,000 years later. At its height, Londinium houses around 60,000 people, making it the largest city in Roman Britain. Amphitheaters, bathhouses, and forums signal that this is no remote outpost, but a fully developed Roman city. By the early 5th century, however, the Roman Empire itself is unraveling. Pressured by invasions across its borders, Rome can no longer justify defending distant Britain. Around 410 AD, Emperor Honorius effectively abandons the province. The legions withdraw, and with them goes the economic structure that sustained the city. Trade routes collapse, imported goods vanish, Roman coinage loses value, officials, merchants, and skilled workers leave. Within a generation, a city once home to tens of thousands shrinks to a few hundred people squatting amid decaying ruins. For the next 2 centuries, the great Roman buildings deteriorate. Roofs collapse, walls crumble, vegetation overtakes mosaic floors. Yet the Thames continues to flow, and rivers have always drawn new settlers with fresh ideas of what a city could be. Those newcomers are the Saxons. The Saxons who arrive in post-Roman Britain are not city builders. Their culture centers on farming and small villages, and they view the abandoned Roman city with suspicion. Some believe the ruins are cursed or haunted. One Saxon poet even attributes them to giants, unable to imagine humans constructing such massive structures. Instead of resettling Londinium, they establish a new community about a mile west in the late 7th century. They call it Londonwyk, meaning London Trading Settlement. This Saxon town occupies the area of today's Covent Garden and the Strand. Anyone attending a performance at the Royal Opera House is sitting directly above what was once Saxon London. By the early 8th century, Londonwick is a bustling commercial hub. Goods arrive from across Europe. Baltic amber, Rhineland millstones and wine containers, pottery and metalwork from France and Germany. At its peak, perhaps 8,000 people live there. Small by Roman standards, but economically vibrant. Then, the Vikings appear. From the late 8th century onward, Norse raiders repeatedly attack the settlement. These are no longer isolated strikes. Large forces sail up the Thames. In 842, Londonwick is completely sacked. In 851, it happens again. Eventually, King Alfred the Great takes action. In 886, he recaptures London from Danish control and makes a strategic decision. He abandons the exposed Saxon town and relocates the population back inside the old Roman walls, which are far easier to defend. The ancient defenses are repaired, ditches restored, and the city becomes known as Lundenburg, meaning London Fortress. The abandoned Saxon settlement gradually earns a new name, Ealdwick, or Old Settlement. That name survives today as Aldwych, a curved street in central London. Over the next century and a half, London repeatedly changes hands between Saxon and Danish rulers. In 1016, King Cnut, remembered for the legend of commanding the tide, makes London his capital. In 1042, Edward the Confessor ascends the throne and builds Westminster Abbey to the west of the city. This single decision permanently shapes London's layout. The city becomes the center of commerce, Westminster the seat of power. When Edward dies without an heir in January 1066, England plunges into crisis. Harold Godwinson takes the crown, but William, Duke of Normandy, claims Edward promised him the throne. After defeating a Norwegian invasion in the north, Harold rushes south to confront William, who has landed with 7,000 Norman soldiers. On October 14, 1066, the two armies meet at Hastings. By nightfall, Harold is dead. William is victorious. On Christmas Day, he is crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey. Anglo-Saxon England ends, and Norman rule begins. The medieval city that follows is tightly packed, noisy, and increasingly wealthy. William does not trust London's population, which had backed Harold, so he surrounds them with fortifications. The most imposing is the Tower of London. Its central structure, the White Tower, rises 90 feet high with walls up to 12 feet thick, dominating the skyline as a clear statement of authority. It begins as a symbol of oppression and remains a symbol of royal power for centuries. By 1100, London's population reaches around 15,000. Powerful merchant guilds emerge, controlling trades from goldsmithing to fishmongering. Their influence grows so strong that kings must negotiate with them. When the Magna Carta is sealed in 1215, London's support is essential. In return, the city secures significant privileges, including the right to elect its own mayor and protection from arbitrary taxation. London Bridge, rebuilt in stone between 1176 and 1209, becomes a settlement in its own right. Lined with houses and shops, it includes a chapel, a drawbridge, and grim displays of executed traitors' heads. For more than 6 centuries, it remains the only bridge across the Thames. In 1348, catastrophe arrives by ship. Rats carrying fleas infected with Yersinia pestis bring the Black Death. Within 2 years, between a third and half of London's population dies. A city of perhaps 80,000 is suddenly hollowed out. Streets are abandoned. Mass graves are dug beyond the walls. Recovery is slow, and social tension simmers. In 1381, peasants and workers march on London, led by Wat Tyler. They storm the Tower, execute the Archbishop of Canterbury, and burn the palace of John of Gaunt. Though the revolt is crushed and its leaders killed, it leaves the ruling class deeply shaken. Ordinary Londoners have discovered their collective power. By 1500, London's population has recovered to around 50,000, and then it surges dramatically. By 1600, it reaches 200,000. By 1650, nearly 400,000. London becomes Europe's largest city. Henry VIII's break from the Catholic Church in the 1530s reshapes the city. By dissolving the monasteries and seizing their land, vast areas suddenly become available for development. Aristocrats and wealthy merchants build grand residences, allowing London to expand outward. Under Elizabeth I, London becomes a cultural powerhouse. The Globe Theatre opens in 1599, and plays by Shakespeare draw huge audiences. Overseas trade explodes. The East India Company is founded in 1600, laying foundations for imperial expansion. Yet the city remains dangerously vulnerable. Built largely of timber, packed tightly together, and lit by open flames, London is primed for disaster. In 1665, plague returns. At its height, 7,000 people die each week. Perhaps 100,000 perish in total. The following year, on September 2, 1666, fire breaks out in a bakery on Pudding Lane. Fanned by strong winds after a dry summer, the flames rage for 4 days. 85% of the walled city is destroyed. 13,000 houses and 87 churches are lost, including Old St. Paul's Cathedral. Only a handful of deaths occur directly from the fire, but 100,000 people are left homeless. Architect Christopher Wren proposes a radical redesign with wide streets and grand avenues. The plan is mostly rejected due to legal and practical constraints, but new regulations require buildings to be made of brick and stone. Wren is allowed to rebuild St. Paul's Cathedral, whose iconic dome still defines the skyline today. The 18th century sees London become a center of Enlightenment thought. Coffee houses serve as hubs of information and debate. Some evolve into major institutions, including Lloyd's of London and the London Stock Exchange. London also solidifies its role as the capital of a global empire. In 1735, the first prime minister moves into 10 Downing Street. George III acquires Buckingham House in 1761, later transformed into Buckingham Palace. Industrialization transforms the city again. The population grows from just over 1 million in 1801 to 6.5 million by 1901, making London the largest city on Earth. Monumental projects reshape the landscape. Trafalgar Square, the Houses of Parliament, the Crystal Palace, and Tower Bridge. Massive engineering works solve long-standing problems, including Joseph Bazalgette's sewer system and the world's first underground railway. Yet extreme inequality defines Victorian London. Wealth and luxury exist alongside crushing poverty. Cholera outbreaks kill tens of thousands until Dr. John Snow proves the disease spreads through contaminated water. Crime remains a constant threat. The Metropolitan Police are established in 1829, but fear lingers. In 1888, Jack the Ripper murders at least 5 women in Whitechapel and is never caught. Writers like Charles Dickens document the stark contrasts of the city. The 20th century brings devastation. While World War I spares much of London's infrastructure, World War II does not. During the Blitz, German bombs fall almost nightly. Entire neighborhoods are destroyed. St. Paul's Cathedral survives, standing amid smoke and fire. By war's end, 1 million buildings are damaged or destroyed. Post-war London struggles. The empire dissolves. Rationing continues. In 1952, the Great Smog kills thousands in days. Yet rebuilding begins again. Immigration from former colonies reshapes the city, followed by cultural renewal in the 1960s. Later decades bring economic hardship, then reinvention. Docklands are transformed. London reemerges as a global financial center. In the 21st century, London continues to change. The 2012 Olympics regenerate large parts of East London. The population surpasses 9 million. More than 300 languages are spoken. Old and new architecture clash and coexist. The city has endured collapse, invasion, plague, fire, and war, yet it keeps adapting. That constant reinvention is the essence of London, complex, crowded, and perpetually unfinished, for nearly 2,000 years.